So Berserk announces the return of serialization will continue under the supervision from Destroy and Revolution mangaka Koji Mori. It seems the Black Swordsman's journey is far from over, as Berserk has officially been confirmed to be continuing on in the wake of the untimely and tragic passing of series mangaka Kentaro Miura. So the news of Guts and Crew's continued adventures was first made public on June 6th when the Young Animal editorial department, I think this is Haku Ensha, is the actual department, Haku Sensha, I think it is, whose magazine has serialized the series ever since the beginning of its 4th volume, when they took to Twitter to announce, quote, "We will resume the serialization of Berserk. Please accept our apologies for the long wait before we can make this announcement." Quote, "We have read as many comments as possible in response to the Great Berserk exhibition, the Young Animal Kentaro Miura Memorial Issue, and Berserk Volume 41. We are extremely grateful for each and every one of your words and for your messages sent to us through social media. We are truly touched by the love you all have for Berserk and the influence it has had on your lives. It is truly sad that Kentaro Miura himself is not here to read your comments with us." Turning to the series itself.
He's reading them upstairs.
Yeah. Turning to the series itself, the team explained, quote, "Before his passing, Mr. Miura spoke to his close friend Koji Mori about the stories and episodes he had in mind for Berserk. Quote, he also had talks with his studio and staff editor. With his studio staff and editor. They said, he wondered, would everyone be surprised if I drew something like this? How about a character like this? Would this storyline be interesting? The talks were not meant as his last words, but were part of his ordinary days as a manga artist. To that end, the editorial department noted that, quote, such ordinary days continued for more than a quarter of a century. Our minds and hearts are filled with the thoughts Mr. Miura shared with us during that time. We have also found memos of ideas he wrote and designs for characters that he drew and left behind. We were reluctant to end this story without sharing these with the fans. Our hope is for everyone to read the last episode that we have put together until the very last frame." By episode, they're basically meaning the last arc, like the different arcs, not like episodes. So don't get hung up on that.
Chapters.
Like it's going to be a TV anime.
Yeah, it's like what they brought back for only one chapter. It was like, what?
Seeking to assure fans of their dedication to Miura's original vision, the Young Animal editorial team asserted, quote, "Upon resuming the series, our production team decided on a basic policy. Mr. Miura said so." The policy being like they're going to stick to the things specifically that Kentaro Miura actually said, and they're presenting the story the way he said it, not the way that they'd like it to be done or whatever. Right.
Oh, you mean adjusting the source material?
Right. So
the narrative, correct.
This is what the production team kept in mind. They affirmed before conceding, since he did not leave behind rough drafts, it is impossible for us to create a manuscript exactly in the way he would have intended. However, we will write the manga so as not to deviate from Mr. Miura's own words. We would like to take the Kentaro Miura that we knew so fondly through our conversations and work and convey this to all of you in a sincere manner. We believe that this policy, although imperfect, is the best way to deliver the Berserk that Mr. Miura envisioned to everyone as faithfully as possible. Speaking to the magazine's specific publishing plans, the editorial department detailed, quote, "From the next issue, we will first publish 6 chapters until the end of the Fantastic Arc / Elf Island chapter. After this, we will start a new arc. Credits after the resumption will be original work by Kentaro Miura, manga by Studio Gaga, and supervision by Koji Mori. And the numbering of the manga books will continue in order." So basically, the way that they phrased it was they're not going to change the title. Like, it's still going to be called Berserk. They're not going to delineate that it's something else. and the numbering system is going to continue on as it were. And what they're doing in order to differentiate is the new crediting system of mentioning that the original work is by Kentaro Miura, but it's supervised by Koji Mori and all that. Following a brief reflection on the series' publication history, the editorial team drew their statement to a close by sharing their belief, quote, that Berserk has touched the heart of many fans, and Mr. Miura would be happy to know that his thoughts have had a great influence on people's lives and work. Thank you to all the fans who sent us messages, they concluded. We are also grateful to the many fans who quietly supported the manga through their thoughts. Every one of you will be the source of our energy as we move forward. We are truly grateful to you all. Now, by now, I hope you understand that the reason I've shared the Bounding into Comics article is because of the amazing artwork that they included from Berserk in between practically every single line. Adding his own thoughts in a follow-up, Koji Mori, best known for his 9-volume weekly Young Jump series Destroy and Revolution, and who had shared a friendship with the Berserk mangaka ever since their student days, recalled to the fans, quote, nearly 30 years ago, Miura called me and said, I need to talk to you about drawing a rough draft. I went to his workplace just to talk as we always do, but Miura looked more serious than usual. I need to draw the eclipse, he said. I sensed it would be hard work, but couldn't believe it when I was trapped indoors for a week. In that very moment, the storyline for Berserk was completed until the very last chapter. Strangely, Mori continued, the story for Berserk went on exactly as we discussed at that time, with almost no changes. I continued to talk to Miura often, whenever there was a big episode, like a big arc or a big moment, right? We did so ever since we were students, consulting each other while working on manga. Hoping to assuage fans' fears for the series' future, Mori then asserted, quote, I think people with good intuition would realize by now that I know the story for Berserk up to the very end. Still, I cannot say that I can draw it because I knew it. That is because only the genius Kentaro Miura can write a masterpiece like Berserk. However, a great responsibility has fallen on me, the mangaka admitted. While he was alive, Miura said, I haven't told anyone other than you, Mori, about the story in its entirety. And that was the truth. It is too big a responsibility. He further reminisced, quote, I thought, should I talk to fans about it through an interview, or should I publish an article with some illustrations? But that wouldn't convey the scenes that Miura described to me, or the lines of Guts and Griffith. Just when I was trying to decide what to do, I received a message. The staff are saying they will finish the last chapter that was left behind. So can you take a look? This is the tribute to Miura. And I think it was in volume 41, where all the manga artists gave their tribute. This is him recalling seeing him in the casket. The last few pages of the chapter were incomplete, wrote Mori. Some did not even have the characters drawn on them. I took a look at the manuscript without expecting much. But desperation can push people to create miracles. There it was, the completed manuscript for Berserk. Mr. Mori, will you let us do it? Miura's apprentices, who Miura had been so proud of while he was alive, asked me straight. He recalled. Company director Shimada, a mentor for me and Miura, also said, if you do it, the company will give you our full support. I thought, if I run away now, Miura would say, I talked to you about it so much, but you didn't do it? With his late friend's words in his friends.
So fucking funny.
You're right. Like, you fucking dumbass. I have made the greatest manga ever, and you walked away. So he said, all right, I'll do it properly. Honestly, I got to be honest right here. I think I'm moved by the fact that the company has said, if you do it, we'll give you our full support. Like,
Yeah.
how many companies would actually
Do that?
value? Well, how many companies would actually value the work of the artist producing the thing that they're making so much that they would say, basically, blank check, whatever you need, let's make it, let's do it the right way. You know, how many companies would actually bother to do that, especially in the West? None.
Yeah.
Right? None. I mean, no matter how good of a creator you are
No.
in the West, like my
You
dad
got
used
to
to talk
insert
to
this,
me.
this.
Well, yeah, like my dad used to talk to me about working for Disney, because my dad is a stunt coordinator, and he would talk about like how every single person on the production for something that's being worked on for Disney, they try to turn them into an accountant. You know, they want you to cut costs in every single way that you possibly can, and they basically try to shove down like orders to lower the cost on everything and cut corners everywhere so that they can save money, right, while maximizing profits. Whereas, you know, what we've got here with this manga is, you know, I don't care how long it takes, I don't care what you need, we're going to give you the full support, everything that we can, we're going to make sure you have what you need. And I just think that that shows the level of respect that they have to honor, you know, somebody who for 30 years was producing something that was selling their comics, number one. And
Probably
also,
why. You know, that they realized.
well, yeah,
was
that's
our
definitely
biggest thing.
part of it. I think that they realized that if we misstep here, goodbye,
We're fucked.
all
Yeah.
of our customers.
Yeah.
Right? That's probably a big portion of it. But on top of that, it's like, I don't know. I see it as just such a move that you wouldn't see in the West, you know?
Yeah. It's
Or at least not
just
anymore.
wanna
I think
run
it
over.
used to happen back in like, you know, the 90s and
Yeah,
whatnot.
I think Stanley Kubrick maybe had some instances where he was given large sums of money to just do whatever he wanted. You know, there are some directors who get that, but only because the studios behind it think it, like, the weirder it gets with this guy, the more money we make. So let's just let him go ham, you know, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, at that point, it's the whole thing of Berserk is such a staple when it comes to internet community anyway. Like you said, if they screw this up, they are screwed. So why in the world would they now want to change or, you know, basically handcuff any situation?
Right.
Because like the fans would know enough to fuck them over.
I am way more cynical than
What's up?
all of you.
Oh, you're thinking that this might just all be a stunt, just, you know, for money?
No.
100%.
Are you
I mean,
cynical about the
I'm not.
By saying
the
it's all
future of the manga, or are you cynical about the company backing them?
I don't believe the story that he told me the secrets. What's the that
Practically a
religion?
lifelong friend.
The Mormons, where it's like, oh yeah, I have the golden tablets. Trust me, guys. God's speaking to me.
Well, counterpoint.
No one else can see the golden tablets but me.
Oh,
No,
so you're saying it might all
counterpoint.
just all be a mind game?
Counterpoint. I'm pretty sure. Like, I thought this seemed like a natural thing. That's like, duh. I'm sure over his 30 years, he's been discussing his intentions, his plans for the whole thing, or at least a vague intention of like, yeah, Guts. He actually like, he
He's
cuts off
actually
his nipples
gay.
in the last
He actually
chapter.
thinks he's a woman.
In
I
the last
love
chapter, he cuts off his nipples.
I love your
and,
pronunciation
you
of
know.
vague.
Bag.
Oh, okay.
Badge.
But
well,
Okay,
I'm
Mr.
certain-
Thanks.
so
all right.
real quick,
besides that,
what he said, just to be clear, what he said was that 30 years ago, when Kentaro Miura was creating the Eclipse, he planned out
What a game.
each succeeding chapter after that, like the idea, the flow of the story, and how to go from this epic moment and lead into the climax, the most epic moment, right? And clearly he knew where he was going before the Eclipse, because when he started Berserk, he starts in the Black Swordsman arc. So he's actually starting post eclipse and then going back to the golden age and working his way up to the eclipse, right? So I think it's very likely that he had
Already knew
some
where he wanted
idea.
to go.
Well, I'm sure that Kentaro Miura had some idea of where he wanted it to go, if not
Way
a
back then.
concrete idea, way back then. And that him talking to Koji Mori, his best friend, maybe he didn't give him all the details right away back then, but I think it's very likely that he talked to him often and shared ideas.
Over the course of
when
30
I'm-
years, you're gonna learn and talk and get better ideas of where you want to go. I mean, he knows the ending. I bet. I'll bet
and-
you.
and
He knows
so-
the absolute ending.
So regardless of how it's executed, I think that Koji Mori probably really did, have conversations with Miura that he didn't have with other people. Because the way I kind of look at it is, as a content creator, both artistically but also on YouTube, there are people that I talk to about projects that I'm doing that I don't share with other people. Like I have moments that behind the scenes I might talk to Reese and FDM about for what we're going to do for a podcast. And then I keep it from the rest of you guys so that when it hits you, it's fresh still, right? And it doesn't ruin it for you. And then there's other moments that I do completely on my own so that it's fresh for everybody, so there's, and that's just with content creation for the podcast, but like as an artist who's done his own planning for stories and things. I've talked to my friends in art school, and you sit down with somebody and say, I'm thinking about doing this. Am I crazy? Or like, and then when you communicate, something I've found over the years is that it's really hard to come up with an idea when the only person you're talking to is yourself in your own head.
Yeah.
And that as you verbalize things, and I feel like there's almost like a biblical wisdom from the concept of speaking things into being, that verbalizing your thoughts and verbalizing your intentions for your stories and stuff, it creates new pathways in your brain where once you hear yourself say something, just literally it comes right out your own mouth and you just happen to hear yourself say it versus thinking it. It triggers a different pathway in your brain of approaching a response to it than just thinking it. And I have found like countless times, in fact, when I first started the Anime Collector channel, I would get in front of the camera and I would record the video that I wanted to do in those first, couple months when I was recording twice a week. And I would record it off the cuff and watch back what I said and come up with new things and re-record it and do it like 30 times for a video before it came out. Because as I started talking off the cuff in the reviews I was doing, I was realizing things about the thing I was reviewing that I previously hadn't considered, and was building and building and building and recording new things. And then I started like getting real anal about the way that I shot it so that I could, try to not have to do everything in one take. But regardless, I'm just saying that I do think that I can say with full certainty that he had conversations with his closest friend, who happens to also be a manga creator, that he didn't have with other people, including other manga creators.
Sure.
There are certain people that you trust with your ideas more than other people, or that you want the feedback that they give you, because the sort of iron sharpens iron, so to speak, concept of communicating with somebody who is also a sophisticated, well-developed artist and storyteller, so that when you throw something at them, they can articulate why it doesn't work or what it still needs. Right.
Sure.
So,
like I said though,
in regards to now moving from there to the others. Good.
Oh man, that was a delay. I'm cynical about the entire thing, being that. So he goes and says, okay, like sure, he might have talked to him about the general plot, And maybe he even did like an overarch, like here's the ending. This is where I'm planning on ending it. They say that about One Piece as well. Oda gave his editors the ending.
Oh.
Like he knows the ending; it's already planned out.
It was friendship.
But do I believe that he had the entire plot all spelled out for him? No, I don't generally believe that. When you were reading the article, it literally sounded like a book. It sounded like you were reading a
Like
novel.
it was all stage,
Like-
it was
like
all
you were
stage
in-
script.
Like you
Okay.
were in an audiobook. And then so
Here's why.
hold on. Just let me finish this one point. So
Mhm.
the company lost their artist that was making a product that was selling them selling books for them. And now that he's dead, interest in those books has skyrocketed. So of course a company will want to capitalize on that new interest and continue the story.
I think they
So-
would have came out a lot sooner if that was their motivation, because they really mulled it over for quite a bit.
Well,
And
I mean,
I
if
think
it is,
beside the was it this one guy who's his friend? I think more than just that guy has been like discussed about Berserk details before. So I feel like there's a pool of resources they can grab from.
Well, I think that like over this past, it's almost been a year since he died, right?
It's been
Um,
more than a year.
Okay,
Just
slightly over
barely
the
more.
year. Yeah. So over that roughly year, they've probably met with this guy to talk about what he knows, and I'm sure he knows some things. I'm not saying he
Mhm.
doesn't know anything. They've probably met with his staff that was on the book and seen if they can pull it off. They probably looked at who they could get to draw it if they couldn't get other people to draw it or whatever. And they probably got everyone to sit down and map out the manuscript of what will happen from now on, so that they
Mhm.
do have a manuscript. So I think there's legitimate reason why it potentially took a year for them to figure
So-
out 100% what was happening.
So okay.
it also depends on how much he like held the whole if you want anything, here's
Well, real
my
quick,
stipulation.
like I said, I'm gonna go from I was addressing whether or not he actually talked to Mori. Now I'm gonna move over to how is this going to actually be going forward with Berserk continuing. I think it's going to change a little. It's impossible for it not to.
Clearly.
But as far as we had this artist guy who was making us all this money, I would bet you Miura wasn't doing most of the art for the longest time.
Which is why he had a whole bunch of assistants.
Studio Gaga is his team that was doing. It was trained to draw like him in his style, right? So
Yeah, but
I think-
that's like saying, oh well, we have Steven Spielberg making all these movies. Oh well, he actually wasn't, or better yet,
James
not
Cameron.
Steven
trained
no,
by
the-
Chuck Jones.
Star Wars. George Lucas. George Lucas gave us Star. Well, George Lucas didn't even direct the second and third movies, right? Like episode 5 and 6. He hired someone else to direct those movies. So it's like, oh well, he didn't
Creds
draw.
still
Okay,
say George
fine.
Lucas for some reason.
What's up?
Pardon?
I said this. The Creds still say George Lucas. Like I
Oh, yeah,
watched
he's-
him after I learned of that, but I'm just like,
He's
why does he say
producer,
that?
but he's
Yeah,
not
well, the
directing.
thing
I
is,
haven't
honestly, that he sucks at directing. A lot of things do not go well, and the first Star Wars film, Episode 4, was
saved
going to
in
be
the
a
edit.
disaster until it got to the editing room floor.
Yeah. So when I say, oh, they have an artist that's bringing in their money from a book, like, okay, fine. He, even if he wasn't drawing it, he's still in charge of.
Jason
He's
South says
still-
Kathleen Kennedy, trained by Steven Spielberg.
It's true. He's still the main artist, the guiding vision on the book, right? So
Yeah.
he's making the
At
story.
bare minimum, he is like, I don't know if you've ever seen the behind the scenes to a Studio Ghibli film, but Miyazaki is constantly there going like, no, this isn't quite right. And he actually hand redraws any cells that aren't up to his
Standard.
Like he does them he does them himself, you know? So so I'll just say I do think things are going to change. I'm excited as hell at the fact that they're going to continue it regardless if Miura is involved. I do think that there was some form of outline, and I would like to point out. So going back to your point, it sounded like a novel. Okay, what I was reading was their statement. I was reading the abridged form on Bounding into Comics, and as much as possible, they said, and then they continued, and I took all that out. I just omitted it, right? Like the last few pages of the chapter were incomplete. I skip over wrote Mori. That's why it sounded like a novel. It's because I was intentionally skipping it so that it was more in line with what they actually said. It was less clunky, right? Now, I will say everything you've said, I agree. I do think that they have spent a year trying to figure out what to do. And in that time, they have gotten probably millions of emails and messages and comments and whatnot showing their support, people showing their support for the series and wanting it to continue, or just showing their support for the company. Like, whatever you're going to end up doing, you know, we support you. Also, I like to point this out. I love this. Now make a good anime.
Start from the beginning and make a good anime.
Yeah. But let me finish this off real quick, and we'll okay, so real quick about this. This is the stuff about what they're doing. And one of the things they said here, this got glossed over in the Bounding into Comics thing. Looking back, the first volume of Berserk was published in 1990 with 28,000 copies released for the first edition. It was not an immediate hit, and only a small group of people knew about it. Still, it drew avid fans and was able to hold their interest because people could feel Mr. Miura's desire to refine his craft. After a while, Berserk became a huge hit through Mr. Miura's extraordinary efforts and some good luck. Today, the first volume has been read by 2 million people around the world. Guarantee the number is astronomical. 2 million people pirated it, probably. We believe that Berserk has touched the hearts of many fans, and Mr. Miura will be happy to know that his thoughts have had a great influence on people. On people's lives and work. Okay, so anyway, so after they talk about that, this whole other thing, this is about Mori. This is Mori jumping in here to say something, which is what we're getting into here. I have a message and promise to everyone, Mori said. I will recall the details as much as possible and tell the story. Also, I will only write the episodes that Miura talked to me about. I will not flesh it out. I will not write episodes that I don't remember clearly. I will only write the lines and stories that Miura described to me. Of course, it will not be perfect. Still, I think I can almost tell the story that Miura wanted to tell. So this is going back to what you were saying about, you know, like a little bit of disbelief, right? So I will say he says these things. But what we previously read, he said, nearly 30 years ago, Miura called me and said, I need to talk to you about drawing a rough draft. I went to his workplace and we to talk just as we always do, but Miura looked more serious than normal. I need to draw the eclipse, right? So they talk about that. Oh, they had the whole thing there. But he said, while he was alive, Miura said, I haven't told anyone other than you, Mori, about the story in its entirety. And that was the truth. It is too big a responsibility, I thought. Should I talk about fans? Blah, blah, blah. So here, just when I was trying to decide what to do, I received a message. Quote, the staff are saying they will finish the last chapter that was left behind. So can you take a look? The last few pages of the chapter were incomplete. Some did not even have characters drawn on them. I took a look at the manuscript without expecting much. Desperation can push people to create miracles. There it was, the completed manuscript for Berserk. Okay, so when I read this, I can't tell if he's saying I talked to Studio Gaga, you know, over the course of the whole year, and they finally came out and said, yeah, we want to do it, and here's the completed manuscript, or if this is saying that they on their own without his input completed the manuscript, and he was looking at it like, holy shit, like, you lied, Miura, you talked to them too, or I don't know, or because they found his memos and his sketchbooks and things in his home or whatever, that maybe they pieced it together that way. I don't know. Okay. But regardless, the bottom line here is we're getting more Berserk, and I think that's fucking cool. And I will just say, if Yusuke Murata was involved, I just think it would be even better than if Miura finished it himself. I'm just saying.
Look, I can agree with that. Like, Yusuke Murata is like the living Miura replacement at this point. Well, not replacement, but it's like he is, I guess, one of the only I can think of that's just like, you think of his artwork and it's like the best.
The literal best.
But he's alive, so that's
that
different.
The artist of Ice Shield 21, right? Or
the
is that
artist of
somebody
One Punch Man.
Well, both.
Right, that's what I thought.
Yeah. So, so with that in mind, I've also pulled up. Did I even finish this? I don't think I did. I finished enough of it. Okay. I also highlighted this from. I was actually very disappointed when I was reading the articles about this, because I was hoping that Sora News 24 was going to have like an expose on Koji Mori with information that would get me hyped. They basically don't say anything about him. Literally, Bounding into Comics, I think, said more.
Hey, I got something to get you hype. I private chatted you a link of the type of art he does.
That my
that was you
anime
who said
link
that.
that didn't work.
It worked for me.
Wow, so much talent.
Well, when I heard the name, I'm like, okay, what has this guy done? And then I saw the art. I'm like, are we in trouble?
Well, he's not drawing it.
Yeah,
he's
it
just
says
a supervisor.
supervised. So I'm like, okay.
Well, I was going to address real quick that that Jason South had said, I think Mori might be more well known for Holy Land than Destroy and Revolution, right? So, famed One Piece actor Vic Mignogna, right? They're not super great at picking the perfect thing to represent the person they're talking about at Bounding into Comics, but I was disappointed because I thought Sora News 24 would have some inside information, being that they're located in Japan and all that would give us some, but they didn't. But they did have these things. It's going to be a little bit of a recap, and even like seemingly opposite of what they said. But it says here, it's unclear whether or not Miura knew his health was deteriorating prior to his passing. But Haku Sensha says that he often spoke with Studio Gaga and his editors about plans for the upcoming storylines and character concepts. The publisher has also found plot memos and character design drafts that Miura had written and drawn to be used in the upcoming chapters. As for how
proceeds to do nothing wrong.
As for how much more Berserk there is to come, it's looking like a significant amount. Haku Sensha says that the current Fantasia arc. Fantasia. Did I fuck that up over here? I thought it sounded weird when I read it this time.
I just like to quickly point out that every time you say Studio Gaga, the Queen
I
song,
knew it. Fantastic arc.
the Queen
Gaga?
song
You
Radio
think
Gaga plays in my head.
Isn't that Umbrella by Lady Gaga?
No.
The Fantasia arc is going to get an additional 6 chapters, after which the story will enter a new arc. So it looks like this is going to be much more than just a hasty wrap up. Now, I'll just say, I don't read a ton of manga, but when I think about there only being one arc left, I know that some arcs are just outrageously long, but I didn't immediately hear that and go, oh yeah, it's going to go on for several more years. You know, I just kind of like, okay, well, I feel like they could still be hastily wrapping it up, especially with Mori saying, well, I'm not going to write anything I only vaguely remember. And I'm not going to write anything, like, so who knows? At the end of the day, Mori is getting paid to just sit there and overlook other people doing the work of his best friend. So good for him. All right. And then there was also this from Manga Mogura RE, Berserk by Kentaro Miura, Studio Gaga, and Koji Mori will publish 2 new chapters at once in the upcoming Young Animal issue 13, 2022. That must mean the 13th. What? Issue what? Out June 24th. I don't understand. Is this the 13th the 13th issue of 2022? Whatever. Anyway, so this is perhaps the first.
What is it? A bi-weekly?
It doesn't matter. I'm moving past it. It can't. It should be. I don't know. It would be bi-monthly in that case, right? Because it should be around 26 right now, being June. Anyway, if it was weekly. So the bottom line.
That's what I say. Bi-weekly.
Perhaps
13.
Yeah, but see, the thing about bi-weekly is it has 2 meanings. It's either every other week or twice a week.
As
so I
we
use the term
established when we
bi-monthly.
made our schedule, right?
Yeah, I use the term bi-monthly because I think it's a little bit harder to mistake that it means twice a month.
Also
it can
has
also
2
mean every other
meanings.
month, but God, I hate. Yeah,
Anyway,
I know. Anyway, back to this. This is perhaps the first non-Miura endorsed image of Guts, and I will just say, although at first glance it looks pretty solid, I have no idea why the motion lines make him look like one of those action figures where you squeeze the legs together and it swings the arms, because the motion lines show that he is moving this direction with this arm, this direction with the other arm, and this direction with this leg, and the other direction with the other leg. I don't know if I'm on board with this.
The only thing I'm not on board with is that his hair doesn't spike up or whatever like it usually does. But I don't think that's a design change, but it's probably more
I think
instance of like, oh, he's training episode.
Yeah,
right
in
now,
the manga there have been times where his hair changes a little bit because he's been like underwater and it's like wet or drying, or like it's not styled. Although he's missing the maybe this isn't, because he's missing the tuft of white hair. Maybe this isn't a new image. I don't know. I literally found this today thanks to Footnum sending it to my inbox. So
well, if this isn't a new image, I guess you're calling out Miura.
I guess so.
Well,
anyway,
I'm sure the fans will bitch at the editorial department and it'll get fixed for the manga release. Not having that white
stuff. JT Los Code Lyoko says, hello everyone. Well, I hope you get that jab. Regarding I assume the Anime Expo news we'll be getting into shortly. And also
regarding the fact that you said you'd get a new job.
Oh, job. I read that as jab. Thank you.
Wow.
All right. I'm just going to crack open this bottle of whiskey early so that I have an excuse for my...
Yeah, I'm sure that'll give you a lot of clarity in your thinking right now.
Man, this is what the stone tablets is going to happen. Like...
the stone... What?
He's like what you just did. You couldn't even read the fucking word on the comment. Yeah. And now we're expecting this guy to interpret what he was told. Yeah. 30 years ago. It's gonna be
really funny if it just gets like off the walls weird, and it's like, maybe now that I think about it, I was on a lot of shrooms when we were meeting. Like,
did he say he would stab this character? No, I'm pretty sure it was another character.
So from what I've heard of the quote most recent Berserk stuff, I don't know if I'd say that this is necessarily a wide opinion, but like a lot of people, a lot of things I heard was like people were kind of like neutral on like where it was, that they were just kind of like, I don't know if it would sound like they were aimlessly wandering and that was just kind of it, and it's like, yeah, Guts and his fairy gang or whatever. So for all we know, they're actually going to deviate from what Miura intended and improve it. But that's just a bit of optimism.
Well, I'm going to read it regardless, and I'll just take note when I get to the part where Miura's last hand involved. I sure am a good speaker, right? I'm
You
gonna
said
read
You're
it.
choked
I
up
speak
there.
real good.
You sound really choked up there. This last
the last
page.
page that he was involved in. Yeah. Honestly, Berserk anime in black and white with only splashes of color for blood or magic would be higher. What?
Give it this Sin City look.
Honestly, I think it could be done. You know, I like to think that because, as we'll discuss tonight, Vinland Saga is being taken over by Mappa, that's freed up Studio Wit, or no, I don't know. Didn't Studio Wit just form with that Joan company that we talked about last podcast?
Yeah, they
With
formicated.
Aniplex and
Yeah.
And
I think
Clover.
Cloverworks was in it too.
yeah, Clover
Yeah.
or something.
Probably only the manuscript for the chapter as long as the anime isn't 3D. Agreed. No 3D shall touch this podcast magic. I am using the last remaining bit we have for the rest of the podcast. No
Remember how you
3D shall touch this property again.
Remember how you were saying they're gonna put all the money into the manga and spare no expense, get it made. They should do that with the anime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, actually, let's
Apparently,
see.
they handed it off to that studio that's like, yeah, we just like barely know what we're doing.
So what we need is we need Yusuke Murata, who came in to help with the animation of One Punch Man, to show them basically how to do it, because he was pretty much doing it in the panels, right?
Oh, that's what you
we need Yusuke Murata. We need Wit Studio to do the majority of the planning and sort of like animation passes. They need to do it at Ufotable. That's where it needs to take place, right? And just every single scene needs to be what's the term for the super smooth animation?
Sakuga.
Sakuga. How am I blanking?
Sakuga as fuck.
Yeah,
and get
issue 13 of 2022.
Yeah, good luck Sakuga-ing him in the Berserker armor. Yeah, sounds really viable.
And get the composer
Yeah,
from the original
can.
first series.
Oh
You
yeah,
can-
you can. It'll
you
take
can
you
s-
7 years.
No,
but-
it won't, because you when you do Sakuga, you simplify the form usually to show the movement and like the crazy shit going on. I think you could easily do it. I do words good, yeah. Sakura, yes. Sakura. Okay. All right. Anyway,